Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Amna Gul from the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. We are back with the course Communication Skills for Media, bearing the code GMC 232. It's our 7th lecture, and the topic today is Speaking Competencies. So what we'll be discussing today, we'll actually be discussing types of speeches and speaking occasions, that actually what are the journal purposes of speaking in public, and then we'll move towards the speaking competencies, and once we move towards that topic, I'll explain what it is. So starting off with what are the journal purposes of a speech? Actually, there are 3 journal purposes for speaking in public. The journal purpose of a speech is usually determined by the occasion in which the speech will be presented. For example, is it a formal setup? The kind of setup it is, the kind of event it is, the kind of audience, the venue, everything. So all of it is actually that occasion. It determines the purpose of the speech. The first journal purpose is to inform your audience. In an informative speech, the presenter will share information about a particular person, place, object, process, concept, or issue by defining, describing, or explaining. See, it is an informative speech, so it is loaded with information. So the information might be about a particular person, place, as I just said, or it can be an object, a process, a concept. They can any specific issue, for example, and information can be in the form of defining that thing, describing that thing, or explaining it. Occasions for which an informative speech would be presented include a report presented to, for example, co-workers, a teacher presenting information to his or her class, a training session for a job, and most of your presentations are also informative, because whenever you are presenting in classes, you are assigned specific topics that are related to your course contents, and you are supposed to explain that concept. You're supposed to describe that subject, topic. So your speeches are also most of the time informative. Now, the second purpose for public speaking is to persuade. In a persuasive speech, the presenter will attempt to reinforce or change their audience's beliefs, attitudes, feelings, or values. Now, what the presenter tries to do in an informative speech, the presenter attempts to either change or reinforce the beliefs or values, feelings, or attitudes of the audience. Several occasions where persuasion is used include a sales pitch to potential customers. Say, there are many times you go shopping, for example, and you come across a salesperson who makes you feel so good about the thing, and you end up buying stuff that you actually did not intend to buy. Or, for example, you went out to a shop to buy yourself, for example, a smartphone, and you were pretty sure you wanted this brand and this was your budget. Let's suppose you had decided that you wanted to go for, let's suppose, Samsung, and for example, XYZ was your budget. But there are times you come across a salesperson who's so persuasive that he makes you change, for example, to any other smartphone brand, and he gives you the pros and cons of it, and actually that is like he kind of changes your decision. So this is an excellent example. Then examples of persuasive speeches are politicians' campaign speeches. Those are all persuasive speeches, or debates during public forums. Those are also persuasive. whenever you come across, for example, in your journalism background, when you come across all these talk shows, when they talk about things, these are all usually those are persuasive in nature. Some of the information, and some of the times it is informative as well, but most of the time it is it is such a setup that you have, for example, people from three different areas or three different angles of the same area, and each one tries to convince you or persuade you according to his or her perspective. So that is also a persuasive speech. The last journal purpose is to commemorate or entertain. These types of speeches often strengthen the bonds between audience members from recalling a shared experience, or intend to amuse audiences through humor, stories, or illustrations. Examples of this purpose include commencement speech at graduation or presenting an award. So there are many a times, have you seen all these international award ceremonies? So they, all the speeches, they are actually meant to entertain those who are receiving the awards, those who are giving away the awards. Then similarly, we do not have the same kind of graduation speeches here, but in many universities the graduates are given a chance to speak up, and those are also usually entertaining speeches that actually share experiences, like they recall their shared experiences to amuse the audience. So these are some of the things. Now, it is important for you to note that these journal purposes may overlap one another. For example, one might wish to use some forms of entertainment while informing or persuading his or her audiences. So it's not a clear cut set that an informative speech has to be informative only. No, the informative speech can also be entertaining. The entertaining speech can also be persuading. So these things go on. It can be any of these combinations. And it can be a combination of all three as well, dependent on the skills of the speaker, dependent on the topic, the occasion, and stuff like that. Having said that, I actually wanted to share a public speaking competition speech with you. So let's have a look at that, and then we'll move towards our topic, that is speaking competencies. Now, there have been so many speeches, but I go for this one. This is my favorite, very favorite. So let's go through it, and then we'll discuss this one. I have started off with the introduction, so you actually get to know the name of the speaker. It's such a difficult pronunciation for me that I always end up pronouncing it wrong.
Dhananjaya Hediyarachi. I see something. I see something. Dhananjaya Hediyarachi.
You and I are not very different from this flower. Just like this flower is unique, you are unique. All of us have something special that makes us as beautiful. Do you know what makes you special? Now, the answer to that can be a little difficult to find, because sometimes life has a cruel way of picking out your petals, breaking you in two, and throwing you into the trash. And when you're broken, it's very difficult to feel special. Mr. Contest Chair, my fellow flowers, I can remember the first time I broke. I was 17 years old. I had already flunked high school and managed to get myself arrested. Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops. But there was one person I was very afraid of, and that was my mama. Raise your hand if you have an emotional mother. Let me see. Put them all together, you get my mama. I can hear her scream outside the police station. Even the cops were afraid. She came up to me, held the iron bars, looked into my eyes, and I saw a tear coming down her face. Now, I've seen my mama cry before, but mothers cry 3 types of tears. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother cry tears of shame, that's a life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, son, I want you to be a better man. That night, when I drove home, my dad was waiting for me at home. Now, my dad is a cool dad. Raise your hand if you have a cool dad. Put them all together, you get my dad. My dad came up to me and said, son, it's okay. You flunked your exams. You already got arrested. That's fine. You get that from your mother's side. I want you to start working immediately. And I said, okay. So my dad took me to meet one of his friends called Sam. Now, Sam was an accountant who had an accounting firm and had generously decided to make me his personal assistant. And there he was. He looked like a teddy bear. But this man was special. I looked at him and he looked at me. And then he said the most amazing thing. He said, son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you decide to work with me, I can help you find that something. And I was like, whoa, that's the first time in my whole life somebody has ever told they see something in me. And I started working for Sam. And every day after work, he used to tell me stories about the world, about history, about culture, about philosophy. Interesting than what I learned in school. And I discovered I can dream. And I started dreaming, ladies and gentlemen. After 1 year, I went back into high school, completed my exams, and went into college. After successfully completing college, I found a great girl, but not a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Have you ever had that problem? And when you're lost, it's difficult to feel special. So I went back to my cool dad. And I said, Dad, I feel lost. He said, you are like your mother. So my dad introduced me to this strange club that had a strange name, with strange people talking. On the first meeting, they told me to do something called a table topic. I aced it. But while I was speaking, I see a strange man seated in the back room. Humble, simple. The unfailing quality of kindness in his eyes. As soon as I finished, he walked up to me, looked me dead straight in the eye, and said, son, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. If you come here twice a month, maybe we can find that something. And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered I could speak, and I love speaking. And that led me to become a teacher. I know what it's like to not have enough money in your bank account. I know what it's like to worry when the bills start coming in. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up my beautiful wife and I ask her, honey, why did you marry me? She says, I saw something in you. I still don't know what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm a dreamer, I'm a speaker, and I learned the unfailing quality of unconditional love from my wife. I was broken, and I've been broken, lost, and broke many times in my life. But the people in my life were able to reach into the trash can and make me whole again. If it was up to me, I would have never been able to do that. And this is why if you have great people in your life, no matter how broke, how lost, or how broken you become, they can piece you back together. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at you, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. Over to you.
Did you enjoy it? No matter how many times I watch this, I always enjoy it. And we'll be referring back to this one particular speech time and again in terms of so many different things, the way this person uses pauses, the way he moves around on the stage, all his non-verbals, his choice of words, his choice of eye contact, everything. We'll be discussing these things with the passage of time as we go on in further in this course. Now let's move towards speaking competencies. See, you cannot hit a target unless you know what it is. So here I am sharing with you an overview of 11 speaking competencies which are considered as a standard for evaluating a variety of presentations at every level of mastery. And I'll be using the same thing to review and to evaluate your presentations. That is why here I'm explaining these, and once we are done with all these speaking competencies, we'll start up with our presentations, our assignments. So with that, let me introduce you to some of these and then we'll discuss each one of these one by one. So here is just a list of these. I'll start off with the first one is useful topic. The first speaking competency is to select a topic that is appropriate to the audience and the occasion. So the topic has to be appropriate both to the occasion as well as to the audience. An advanced speaker selects a worthwhile topic that engages the audience. His topic also presents the audience with new information that they did not know before the speech. A beginning speaker selects a topic that lacks originality or is out of date. His topic provides no new information to the audience. And an ineffective speaker, you may give a speech in which a single topic cannot be deduced by the audience. So your choice of topic actually lands you into different categories of being a beginning speaker or a proficient speaker or an advanced speaker depending on your topic choice. Now the second is engaging introduction. To formulate an introduction that orients the audience to the topic and the speaker is the second speaking competency. An advanced speaker writes an introduction that contains an excellent attention getter. She firmly establishes her credibility. She provides a sound orientation to the topic, states her thesis clearly, and previews her points in a cogent and memorable way. For the beginning speaker, her attention getter is mundane and she somewhat develops her credibility. Her thesis is awkwardly composed and she provides little direction for the audience. The ineffective speaker has no opening technique, no credibility statement, and provides no background on the topic. In addition, she has no thesis statement and no preview of her points. So once again, the way you introduce that is your first impression as well. So the way you introduce, the way you plan your introduction, it actually sets you apart, that the kind of presenter you are. Are you a minimal level, a beginning level speaker, or are you an advanced level speaker? So the way you introduce your speech, the way you start off with the speech, how you get the attention of your audience, all these things speak for your communication skills, speak for your speaking abilities. Having said that, we'll wind up today's lecture, and then we'll continue with these in the next lectures. So we just started with the speaking competencies. We've just discussed 2 of the speaking competencies, and the rest we'll discuss in our next lecture. That's all for today. Thank you.